aware of this marijuana solution.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Roundtree with the Marijuana Solution, and today we're speaking with Kim Rivers, CEO of TrueLeave, and we're going to talk to her about some new products that they may have coming out, new strains, jobs being created, upcoming events that they're supporting, such as the Art Basel Art 420 edition. How are you doing today, Kim?
I'm doing great, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off trying to get all this new stuff I got for the Art Basel show that we're sponsoring. So I've been chasing down orders with UPS. So it's been interesting, but it's fun. I mean, I'm really excited about it.
No, it's going to be an awesome event. We're really looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, I spoke with Eric the other day, and it sounds like he is he's putting in work to get this put together, and I'm looking forward to see what they have.
Yeah, no, I think it's so exciting to have really the industry represented, and Eric is such a wonderful human being, and his energy and presence within the movement, I think, is just wonderful, because he just brings a completely different dynamic and a completely different audience, with, art being really a medium that cuts across a lot of different demographic and so forth barriers, and I just think it's a great uniter, and then you add cannabis and the cannabis conversation in with art, and it's an awesome combination. So we're really proud to have the opportunity to work with him on the event, and of course Art Basel is just a preeminent event that gains, really international attention. So to be front and center in an event as prestigious as Art Basel is just awesome. So, kudos to Eric and the entire Art 420 team for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you listening that may not be familiar with Art Basel, I believe 1.5 million people or something come down to Miami for artists from around the globe. So it's definitely the place to be if you're interested in art. Anything like that. And the Wynwood area of Miami is pretty amazing as far as art goes. Have you been through there much at all?
I have. It's really amazing. It's just, I think it's just a very inspiring place, and just the vibe is incredible and positive, and it's a showcase for different outdoor installations, and again, I think that it's a perfect place to for the cannabis community to show up and continue to educate folks about cannabis in Florida. So
yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Since you brought up education, I've met most of your community educators that have been around starting. I noticed I met a new one at the Dispensary Grand Open in Orlando, and they kind of seem to be all's boots on the ground, educating physicians and patients at different events. Can you explain a little bit what your community educators do?
Absolutely. So our community educators are very important to our business model, and they're folks that we've hired in different regions to do exactly what you just said, Robert, to be our boots on the ground, interfacing with not only physicians, but being able to participate in a physical way at all of these wonderful events that are being hosted around the state. We realized pretty early on that, as we all know, Florida is a pretty large state from a geographic standpoint, and we really wanted to have a personal presence in as much of the state as we possibly can. And so we knew that we needed to roll out a model where we had community educators who are trained and able to really serve as additional faces of the company. And what's great about our community educators is they're very personal. They're very familiar, of course, with all of our products, and they build relationships, like I said, with physicians and also with our patients in their respective communities. And they're constantly bringing that feedback back to quote unquote corporate, to make sure that we have that constant ear open to any physician and or patient concerns, and that we're incorporating that into our business practices. So it's been great. So
they're kind of like a dual agent. So they educate the physicians and the patients, and then bring back the feedback to the company to make any improvements on how that's going on. kind of?
Absolutely. Yep. That's exactly right.
Yeah, you guys are beyond amazing at responding to people. I mean, everywhere I look, really customer or patient, oriented, issues get taken care of. So we're really happy that that's going on. That might be the number one thing that I see online that sets you guys apart aside from the products. People were really excited about the customer service experience they get.
Well, thank you. That's something that we are really focused on as a company. One of our primary mottos is that True Leave grows one patient at a time, and that is something that we believe and we feel throughout our entire company. And so, we talk about that with our growers. We talk about that with the folks that are, on our extraction lines, with folks in manufacturing, even in shipping, receiving, all the way, of course, to our patient consultants, folks that work with us in our call centers or delivery drivers, and certainly our community educators, that it really does come back to the patient and to the patient experience. And, we know that we are, in a lot of senses, trailblazers in Florida, and there are going to be some bumps in the road, but we want to make sure that those bumps are handled in a timely manner and as smoothly as possible. Our goal is to create raving fans and to have, a true lever community that feels supported and knows that we as a company do truly care about their particular circumstances and their particular condition, because everyone's story is unique. And, we just feel so privileged to have the ability to hear those stories. And if we can make a positive impact in that patient's journey, we certainly want to do that as much as possible.
Speaking of patients' journeys and, having a big impact, are there any trends that you notice from your patients as far as, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you notice any trends with the out of those 8 conditions? Like, is there any kind of correlation to the products that are being used? Like, are patients, like, I know a lot of the patients with seizures, the kids, they use the Canatol.
Sure. Yeah. So, obviously, our Canatol nasal rescue spray is specifically, formulated and the company Canatol was, that product was developed is intended for patients with significant seizure disorders. And we've gotten a lot of positive feedback related to the effectiveness of that particular product. And so it's a wonderful product for us to have available in our product line. I had the pleasure of speaking to a group of nurses that work in the school system, local school system, and just talking with them about the possibility down the road of having the availability of that type of a product as opposed to current products that are on the market in terms of a rescue medication, and just how wonderful it would be to have a less invasive and effective option. So we're of course thrilled with that partnership. As you know, Robert, we don't specifically ask patients for medical information related to their particular conditions because of HIPAA and other federal laws, but we certainly hear and have the ability to share in the joy when patients feel that they've received life-changing, oftentimes results from using our products. And those are always wonderful stories to feel like you really are affecting change in people's lives. I can tell you that some of my favorite personal encounters have been with patients who have transitioned from opioids, and that's just always so wonderful to hear. And those patients just, light up, and their family members are so grateful, and just, the stories of them becoming quote unquote whole people again, is just amazing. And then, of course, we have lots of interaction with the veteran population in our different locations. And that's also been just very heartwarming to work with that patient group, because, here you have a group of men and women who have served and fought for myself and for our employees and our families, whether it's overseas or here on the home front, and just to feel like you're able to do something that is helpful for them in return is awesome. So we appreciate those patients as well.
Yeah, I would suggest if anyone's wanting to hear an amazing story and you're a patient, just go sit in y'all's dispensary, any one of them, and True Leave, because the patients start talking amongst themselves and love telling each other about things, because there are a lot of people's lives being changed, especially with the opiates, like you're saying. Myself, I got off of countless opiates, muscle relaxers, Xanax, and replaced it all with cannabis. And we see that happen a lot in the veteran population. Veteran population's severely over-medicated. If you just talk to enough of them, that's generally the consensus. And I've noticed there's a lot of veterans that are coming into the medical marijuana program in Florida, maybe even disproportionately so to other demographics is what I've kind of noticed. There's a lot of veterans. Have you noticed that with your patients? Is there a significant portion?
There are a lot of veterans, and I think that that has to do with somewhat, locations of dispensaries and where they are in proximity to veteran populations. So, I do think it varies depending on the particular geographic area, and then of course, the Florida veteran population in general is fairly large.
10%.
We do have the pleasure. Yeah, we do have the pleasure of servicing a number of veterans, and it is truly an honor. And like I said, we are focused as a company for sure on that population, and making sure that we do provide products and also support and additional services to that population group specifically.
Yeah, and there's I got a really good friend. You may know who he is. His name's Jose Belen. And his Mission Zero, I was honored enough to help him out, outreaching veterans in True Leave. Could you explain kind of what that partnership is and what the goal is going forward with you guys?
Sure, absolutely. And so Jose and his wife are wonderful individuals, and I had the pleasure actually of meeting them for the first time at one of the Florida Cannabis Coalition Green Carpet events. And I think it just kind of goes back to which I would encourage any of your listeners to get involved within the cannabis community, because really I've just been so fortunate to meet so many wonderful activists and folks through just different events and programs. And so I heard Jose speak, and I was really touched by his story, and not only his story, but his passion and his just the concept that he developed surrounding, his personal mission, which is to eradicate veteran suicide. And so that's where Mission Zero started. And so, we kind of mutually reached out to one another and decided that it would be a great fit for True Leave to partner with Mission Zero to assist in that mission to eradicate veteran suicide. And certainly, in Florida. And so for Veterans Day, True Leave partnered with that group and created shirts and sold those shirts to raise money to donate directly to Mission Zero. Also, we had folks on site at many of our dispensaries that were available to talk with veterans, to offer assistance in getting veterans hooked up with particular resources that they may need. And what we see moving forward is setting up support groups specifically geared towards veterans and their particular set of issues, so that veterans feel that they have a safe place to discuss particular, whether it be particular treatments that may be working for them, questions that they may have about cannabis, or about even non-cannabis, such as the VA, and how to navigate that process. And so we see it as definitely a broad-based partnership that focuses primarily on support and education. And True Leave is very proud to stand and with Jose Belen and his efforts to eradicate veteran suicide, and we're very appreciative that he has trusted us with that partnership. So we're looking forward for great things in 2018, and stay tuned because there's going to be a lot of wonderful things happening there.
Excellent. I nothing makes me happier than to hear about and see veterans actually being taken care of. And I speak to a lot of them. And for a lot of veterans, especially those that serve combat, it's important to feel like they have a safe place to come. And it normally is being surrounded by other people that served, especially, the more shell-shocked ones. They like to know that the other person in the room has had the same experience. I'm a veteran. I didn't serve combat. I mean, I've been kicked out of meetings before, and I'm like, okay, guys, it's okay. So it's really good to be providing safe spaces to meet veterans on their terms, because it is a little bit different population than most. The issues they deal with are a lot different. And, I mean, it's similar to some of I'll just cut that out. That was garbage. Anyways, moving on. So, speaking of the veterans issues, I really like the True Clear, the new, was it Super Lemon Haze?
Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It really is. It's really good stuff. What new products and or strains do you guys have? Because that's one of your newest strains, I believe.
It is. Super Lemon Haze is a direct response to an outpouring of patient feedback that we received, asking for a sativa profile in our True Clear product line, and so that's the first sativa True Clear product that we launched. And so it's funny, we've kind of we get a lot of patient requests for particular strains and particular profiles. We have a number of strains that we're working on. I am not at liberty right now to disclose all of those. I would get in a lot of trouble from my marketing team and hand slapped. But stay tuned for new strain profiles being released in January. I can tell you that between now and then, we are working very hard to get the True Stick product to market. And so that will be coming very soon. We are waiting for the batteries to arrive, which should happen any day. And we are, our goal will be to release the True Stick in at least one profile prior to Christmas. So that's our goal. So that's coming very, very soon. Actually, I think we're batching it this week. And that, for those of you who don't know, that's basically our True Clear, so completely uncut, pure cannabis oil and terpenes in a vapable format. So with that, there is required that a new battery will accompany that, just because of the thickness of that oil, to make sure that it draws properly. We can't push that oil through our existing cartridges, but I think that folks are going to be very, very happy with that product. We're really excited to launch it. So that's coming out soon. We also, for the holidays, are going to be releasing some holiday batteries, so red and green Mysticas, red and green pens. So we're going to have those on our shelves here in the next week or so as well.
People love those Mysticas. I think I've dropped mine 20 or 30 times getting out of my car, opening the door to go check the mail, and it's still kicking.
That's great to hear. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on the Mysticas, and some things that folks don't know is that behind the scenes, we work very, very closely with all of our suppliers, and we're constantly pushing them. So, anytime we get a return or complaint from a customer, we're passing that along. We compile those, and we're demanding excellence from our suppliers. So, we think it's really important for us to hear about any issues that you may have, but it's great to hear that, our work with our suppliers is paying off. So, and the Mystica is, I think, also personally a great product. So.
Yeah, it's great. Isn't that why you guys upgraded and changed the style of the True Clear pen too, was patient feedback?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So on the True Clear syringe, that we originally had a twist style, which was great in theory, but unfortunately we had a lot of patients who were having trouble due to specific conditions, whether it be difficult to handle and difficult to twist, so forth. And then also patients where we were receiving feedback that they were having a hard time getting the last bit of True Clear out of that particular syringe style. So because it's one kind of complete plastic piece, and so it was difficult for patients to get that last bit out. And since it is so potent, each dose is relatively small, so it is important for patients to be able to get all of their doses out of the particular product. So we switched over to a more traditional syringe style. However, again, because the product is very, very thick, because of its purity, we had to really spend some time researching and getting a syringe that could handle the thickness of the product. And so we landed on the syringe that we have currently, which is a stainless steel core with a glass style syringe. And so and that's even though it's a little bit more expensive on our end related to the hardware, if you will, we also felt like it was very important for patients to not see a price increase as a result of a packaging change on our end. And so we left the pricing where it is, which I think is our True Clear product is, I think at this point, probably the most competitively priced product in Florida. And certainly we feel like can hold its own across the country related to the purity of the product and the price per milligram. So that was important for us to maintain that for our patients.
Yeah, it definitely competes. As you know, I spent some time out in Washington earlier this year, and I've tried a bunch of different distillate products. I mean, it's as good as any of the ones that I've tried that were considered the best out there. Now, you've got the new strains coming out. I assume there'll be a few different ones.
There will be.
Okay.
The True Stick launch is going to be a completely new strain profile.
Excellent. We all get so excited to see new strains.
I do too.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better.
Absolutely. Is it? And so something I noticed on Instagram, it was posted on Facebook and everywhere else, was when you guys posted the Philos logo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you explain? I know what it is, and this is groundbreaking and another milestone first in Florida, maybe the whole East Coast, unless somebody's doing it up in New York. Can you explain what Philos does and what it means for the patients?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, I appreciate you taking note of that because it was a big deal for us as well. So Philos is a company that we have partnered with really since the beginning. There were some questions, and we knew that there were going to be questions from our patients as to, okay, well, you're claiming that this is, a remedy strain, or you're claiming that this is a 9-pound hammer strain, but how can I be sure that it is what it is? Because we are in Florida, we're not in, California or Oregon or, one of those more mature markets. And so Philos is a company that basically tests the DNA of the plant, and that they basically certify its accuracy, and they stand behind. And so when it's Philos certified, they basically say that yes, we have tested this and we have independently verified that the genetic makeup of this plant matches the strain profile that you're claiming that the plant is. And so it's our strains go into what's called the Philos Galaxy, and we're working on getting all of our strains into the Philos Galaxy. A good number of them are there now. And so if you go into Philos and you go to the Philos Galaxy and you type in TrueLeave, you can see the TrueLeave, cuts, if you will, of the different strains and where they are in the galaxy. And so it shows you how closely, kind of what their brothers and sisters are, what other, from a genetic standpoint, what other strains they're most closely related to. And then it also tells you what they're kind of the opposite of, what the inverse relationship would be. So I find it fascinating. And again, it's just one additional level of transparency with our patients. It's the same approach that we take, for example, with our independent lab testing. We think it's very important for patients to have as much information as possible when they're making decisions about what to put into their body. And so, we made the decision very early on, and actually it was direct feedback from, I can tell you, from Renee, Helena, Brandon's mom, who was pushing me early on. Well, how do I even know that this is safe for my son? You don't even have, it's just your internal lab. And so I said, no, we third-party lab test. And well, if you third-party lab test, then why don't you put them online? And it was like, okay. And so we developed an online database for our lab results. And so in a similar vein, the Philos certification is just, another third-party verification that what we're representing to patients is in fact accurate.
Yeah, to my knowledge, you're the only company in Florida doing it. Both on both ends, the Philos and the publishing of independent lab tests. And I've seen y'all's lab in house. I mean, it's space age. And then you send it out for testing. And then didn't you tell me too that you also will have another company come audit them at time to time, like random audits?
Yes. So we have our in-house testing protocols and procedures, and then we have our third-party lab that all those test results from the third-party lab are also posted online. And then we also have an additional third-party lab that comes and does audits, quarterly audits on our in-house testing protocols and procedures to make sure, in our results, to make sure that we're in line and that what we're doing at TrueLeave in-house is accurate and held to the highest standard.
Yeah, and a lot of people compare Florida to out west and the fact that everything gets tested third party out there. I did not walk into a grow or a processor in Washington where they had their own labs, like testing labs. They send them all out to a third party. This is, multiple layers more transparent and verifying, that what the medicine is always the same, the consistency, the quality, and then the strains matter. And Philos can actually nail them down to the phenotype of each strain, can't they? Like, for instance, you have a Girl Scout form cut.
Yep. No, that's absolutely. Yeah. And I was just going to say, that kind of goes back to a patient, and I don't know, Robert, if you remember, but there was a patient who was very adamant that I think it was our 9-pound hammer. It was one of our strains that it wasn't it wasn't quote real 9-pound hammer. And so, that causes certainly me and our company pause to say, and we were asking ourselves the question, okay, well, we need to verify that, because the last thing we want is to have something, and for us to be saying as a company that it is 9-pound and then come to find out that it's not. And so that's another example of the patient population pushing us to provide, accuracy in Florida. And, the reality is that we have one chance to build this program, and we want to make sure, at least as TrueLeave, that we're seen as setting high standards. And hopefully, we're very hopeful that the other MMTCs will follow suit, because we do believe that for patients, that patients have a right to know what's in their medicine, and to have the confidence that when a company makes a claim about a particular strain or about particular testing results, that there is independent verification to back that up. Yeah,
that's really important. Just in the same sense, when you go buy an Apple iPhone, you want it to always have been made by Apple or the same thing. It's extremely important when dealing with medicine, because if you go thinking you're getting a sativa and you walk away with an indica, that could cause some issues, and especially the reverse. If you're going to get an indica and get a sativa, a lot of people will get panic attacks. So knowing what you're getting is of primary importance to me. I would love to see all the other MMTCs do it. You know, Certera, Knox, Green Solution, Grow Healthy, all of them, and all the ones that come in after them to do this, because it is important for patients. It's important, you know, for the families of the patients, caregivers, and like you said, as a company, to know that you can really stand behind your products. I guess since we're still talking about strains and all of that, I would just like to get your opinion on the flower issue in Florida in regards to the lawsuits that are going on. I think there's about 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, as I've stated, and I'll continue to state, you know, truly, we certainly are supportive of flower as medicine, and believe that it's very important to be brought to market in a very real way for Florida patients. We've had a flower product in our product line since the day that we opened our first store in Tallahassee last summer, which is our ground flower product in the small format handheld Hirova vaporizer. So we've always had the vision of having flower available, and we think that it's, of course, very important from an entourage effect for patients to have that as an option. So I'll start there. What I can tell you is that lawsuits take time. I think that it's going to be interesting as they move their way through the court system. You know, last special session, the legislature passed in the law that was passed to implement Amendment 2, there was a provision that was added that basically prohibited the sale of flower except for flower sold in a sealed, tamper-proof container intended for vaporizing. And so our initial product met that definition. I think that they were struggling somewhat with, you know, the realization that this product had been to market at that point for almost a year. And so it's a little difficult from a policy standpoint to roll that back. But, you know, really we have pending right now for approval a larger format vaporizer product that we believe meets the definition of that statutorily, which is, you know, our way as a company to continue to push for flower-based products in Florida. You know, not that that's where we would like to see the conversation end by any means, but, you know, as sort of an interim step to get folks comfortable with the concept of flower. And, you know, as a company, sometimes that seems to be, in some respects, you know, where we find our role is in the destigmatization process, because, you know, cannabis historically has had a certain stigma around it, unfortunately. And we do see ourselves as important players in reversing or changing or challenging that stigma. That's why we do what we do related to our storefronts. That's why we're so try to be, you know, very professional players and very patient focused and centric, so that when lawmakers and legislators and policymakers intersect with the cannabis business, they come away understanding that it's not all about, you know, tie dye and hippies. Not that that's not, you know, I don't have a problem with that either. As Robert, I'm sure you could attest to. But you know, as an industry as a whole, you know, a standing, you know, as sort of that groundbreaker, so that, you know, folks can start seeing, and we can start seeing the benefits from a medical standpoint of patients using flower in some format in Florida, so that then we can garner testimony from patients, and that conversation again can progress and move forward. So I'm anxiously awaiting the results of those lawsuits. Unfortunately, as a recovering lawyer myself, I know that they take a lot of time and a lot of money. So, you know, I think that it's not going to be a speedy resolution as much as we would like for it to be.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you kind of explained that and the time frame that these things evolve in, because especially when there's going to be a lot of back and forth between the state, DOH, and the plaintiffs, it's going to take about as long as it possibly could. And the Department of Health is already stretched thin as it is, trying to just keep up with this market that's expanding at a faster rate than any other medical market. Which brings me to my next question is job creation. I see new job postings everywhere. Can you kind of touch on that? I know you guys seem to be hiring left and right.
Oh, it's so exciting. Sure, I would love to talk about. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. We as a company now are at we've crossed the 300 employee mark, which is awesome and kind of mind blowing when I kind of step back and think about how far really this industry has come in a relatively short period of time. So yeah, we're expanding and we're hiring. As you know, we aggressively are opening additional dispensary locations, and each one of those locations requires staff, of course, patient consultants, as well as delivery drivers, security, at least one dedicated security personnel at each location. And so we're definitely adding folks all the time. Our call center is we're actively adding employees to our call center. As we touched on earlier, patient service, customer service is a top goal for us, and we have experienced some rough patches there related to the number and sheer volume of calls that we've experienced as cards begin to get issued and as new patients are calling looking for information. So we want to make sure that we've got not only enough people, but that we're staffed appropriately, so each person gets the proper amount of time and attention that they need to make sure that all of their questions and concerns are answered. We don't want to be a company who you feel like you're being rushed through a conversation, especially with subjects that surround a person's, personal situation or journey. And so that's important for us. So yeah, we're hiring. We love to hire Floridians. We love to hire patients. Definitely check out our postings, which is online. If you go to trueleave.com, at the bottom of our website, there's a careers link, and that's updated pretty regularly. We're also hiring other positions with particular skill set expertise. So we're expanding our extraction facilities. We're actually adding some additional lines to our extraction processes. We're adding a CO2 line here shortly, and also upgrading our current extraction lines. So if anyone out there listening has particular experience there and is willing to come work in Quincy, Florida, certainly let us know. We're always looking for great people in our shipping and receiving department. And there's and our grow actually is expanding also. And so we've got some awesome, talented folks that work over in our cultivation department. But really, if you're, have a clean record, because Florida requires a level 2 background check. So you have to be able to pass a level 2. If you're over the age of 21, because that's also a Florida law requirement. And like I said, our cultivation facilities are located in Quincy, Florida. And you've got a passion for growing or interested in learning, we would love to have you on the team.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So you go to trueleave.com, scroll to the bottom, click on careers. Can they submit their resume and application directly through the website? Oh, wow. Excellent.
That's preferred. So, just submit your resume there. Shoot us a cover letter is always appreciated. Just telling us a little bit about yourself. And we're always on the search for talent, for sure.
And you're probably on the search for talent even more because of the inability to contract outside help as well, right?
That's certainly one of the challenges right now for the industry in Florida, and something that that's really our number one legislative priority moving into session. In the implementing bill during special session on the Senate side, a provision was added that prohibits any existing license holder from contracting with any company that directly relates to cultivating, processing, or dispensing. And so what that means is that really, as much as we would love to do business with other businesses or other folks who would like to start businesses in Florida, in particular areas, we're prohibited right now from doing that. And so, we're waiting anxiously, for example, for the edibles rules to be passed, and would love nothing more than to be able to support, folks in Florida who start their own edibles companies with expertise in particular product lines. And unfortunately, right now we're not able to do that. We have to have everything done in-house. So yes, that does require us to, onboard that talent as employees, and have them work out of our facilities as opposed to establishing a contractual relationship with them.
Oh, hey. You better like trains if you go work up there too, guys. So,
we're right next to the train.
Yeah. As an entrepreneur, can you explain the difference, kind of like what it means to do business?
Sure. Yeah. So, for example, a really easy illustration, and what we deal with all the time is let's look at our logistics department and shipping and receiving. So, in Florida, we're required to have only our employees and a minimum of 2 employees in a vehicle at all times whenever there is transportation of cannabis or derivative product, so end product. So that has required us to literally become a mini FedEx/UPS in-house. And so we currently have a fleet of, I think, around 40 vehicles currently. And that, going between deliveries and then also our inventory. So we have to have dedicated folks just dealing with full-time logistics on how to move product around the state. That would be a great intersection point for a third-party company who deals. That's their business model, right? Is logistics and delivery. And unfortunately, we're not able to contract with that type of a service.
Yeah, logistics is one of the hardest things to crack. Moving things around, as I was telling you a little earlier, I had to chase down some packages, and it's not easy. And I'm speaking with a gentleman, I think next week. I've had him on the podcast before. He's the CEO of Hardcar, and that's all they do is security and secure transportation of cannabis products up and down like California's coast. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to him extensively, and he would love to be in Florida doing business if he could. But right now, he can't unless he wanted to, I guess, quit his job and become a True Leave employee and offload information to you. Right.
That's right. And it's challenging. It's challenging also on the product front, I would say, because, folks ask us all the time, oh, well, we'd love to see such and such brand from, California or Colorado or wherever. Why can't you have, all these different types of things? And the reality is that every MMTC is going to be limited by their own bandwidth and what the product lines that make the most sense, which means that those are going to be the product lines that appeal to the most, to the majority of the market. And so a lot of the niche products that you may see when you go to a dispensary out west, it may not, at least in the short term, be available in Florida because the infrastructure and the investment required from a startup standpoint to build those product lines from scratch. Also the expertise, when you're dealing with some of these products, that particular process has been refined over years with a company that's just focused on that particular type of product. And, to be able to dedicate those resources to that kind of R&D, again, yes, there of course will be constant innovation. We're very focused on that as a company, and we're very focused on having as diverse a product line as possible. But it does create challenges, related to that we would love to be able to carry, your favorite brands from out west. But the reality is that those companies aren't going to give Trulieve their IP
Right.
and just, and say, okay, you guys run with it and you just pay me a fee. That's just not how, from a business standpoint, that's just not how those deals tend to shake out. So it's very frustrating. I think at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's the patient who suffers. So we'd like to see that changed.
It definitely does, because it kind of limits your options. And you just gave us a bunch of reasons how that happens. So I definitely do think the patient's affected. At the end of the day, the patients are the end of the road. They're at the bottom of the hill where the ball rolls down to, and they're the ones that get affected the most, in a good way and in a bad way. They feel those fluctuations the most. You touched on your number one issue coming into session that you'd like to tackle, which is the contracting. One from the patient and the physician standpoint that I hear a lot about is the inability to jot down more than 2 modalities of use. So for you that are listening, myself, I have an order, and it's for oral and inhalation, which means I can buy any products that are designated as an oral mode of administration or inhalation mode of administration. But edibles are coming. I mean, not edibles, topicals are available. I'm a Floridian. I have skin spots all over. I would love to try y'all's cream, but I just physically, I legally can't even buy it unless my doctor changes my order, and then I wouldn't be able to have the True Clear or, the vaporizer cartridge. And can you explain, what that does?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a great point. And that's, it's definitely a point of frustration, for patients and physicians and for, MMTCs, for sure. So, the issue is that a doctor is forced now, because of the way that the software was written for the registry, to select from a drop-down menu, up to 2. And so a physician does not have the ability to select more than 2 routes of administration. So even if a patient has a valid medical reason for a third delivery method, the physician is currently, from a technology standpoint, prohibited from adding that. And so I did, have a conversation. I've had a couple conversations with DOH about that, and it's been a little shaky in terms of the response. But, I think that it is a situation that likely could be challenged. And you may see some activity on that front in the future. But, at the end of the day, our belief is certainly that that is between a patient and the physician, and the physician should be given the flexibility to enter as many routes of administration as are necessary for that particular patient and that particular patient's condition. And we definitely don't believe that it's anyone else's right to dictate routes of administration, other than, like I said, the recommendation from the physician. So absolutely 100% are supportive of the removal of that restriction and the ability for the physician to add additional routes of administration for a patient.
From what I've heard, that topical is really, really good, especially for pain.
Yeah, it's a pretty great product. So I definitely, we would like to see more patients have access to it. And there's certainly a lot of patients who would benefit from it, that are currently not able to use it because, from a day-to-day standpoint, they really need that oral and inhalation combination, but they do have particular flare-ups, whether it be in joint inflammation or particular areas that are a part of their particular condition that, unfortunately, as you mentioned, they're not able to utilize our topical, which is specifically formulated as a topical. So it's got wonderful essential oils in it, and it's a fast absorbing. It's a great product. And so we would love to have more access for patients to be able to take advantage of those products that any combination of those could help their particular condition.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I mentioned earlier, that's honestly the only way I'll be able to try y'all's product is if the two modalities change, because I'm not going to swap out the topical for, oral or inhalation. Because to me, I rely on those much more frequently throughout the day and evening than a topical would benefit me.
Sure.
So it's coming. I mean, these are just early steps in the, evolution of our new market, which everyone is new to, the MMTCs, the regulators. Nobody, they're literally creating an industry from the ground up. There's a lot of moving parts. And I think a lot of times, myself especially included, patients get a little impatient for things to evolve because it's just the nature of it, and it's happened in every state that's legalized medical marijuana. Nothing's the way it is now when it started. Do you care if I ask? Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to go straight into something completely off topic. So if you were going to respond. Oh, okay, great.
No, you're good.
Yeah. So when I saw you in Miami, I noticed that you had on this pretty sweet looking bracelet, bangle. I don't know, I'm a guy, but a bracelet. And it's black and gold. And then after that, I noticed I found the person online, and you may have sent me the message, but on Instagram posting the black and gold bracelet. Where can somebody get one of those?
So yeah, thanks for asking that. My very, very good friend and very talented artist, Audra Pittman, has created a line of special bracelets, and it's Leaf Love, LEAFLOVE, by Audra. And so if you go to Instagram, or she has an Etsy account, you're able to click on it and to purchase one if you would like. We are coming out with actually she is doing a line for me with the True Live logo, which is pretty awesome.
Exciting.
And so, yeah, it's really exciting. But she is a very, very talented entrepreneur herself, and is a wonderful support. She's part of my support system personally, and is supportive of the movement as a whole. And so I would definitely encourage folks to check her out.
Yeah, absolutely. I reached out to her on Instagram. I'm going to be ordering one. I think I'm going to get a couple of them because she does one with just all the cannabis leaves. And I'm trying to get her to make me one custom with my logo. We'll see where that goes. But she's super sweet and awesome, really responsive. So I'm sure if any of y'all place an order, I'll have a link in the description too to her page. But really cool stuff. And I know about a couple other things that I've kind of put a bug in her ear to make. We'll see if they happen. I need a fancy wallet. I'm just going to be honest. I need a fancy wallet. I've got this cheap old wallet falling apart. So if anyone feels sorry for me and they want to go on Etsy and buy me something, please do. Yeah.
I think Audra will be able to come through for you.
Yeah, no, it's amazing work. I'm still curious because I would really like to, because I'm an artist myself, I would like to see how she makes it, because it seems pretty intricate to get the gold in on the black leather.
Yeah, and so just so the listeners know, it's a gold-plated cuff with a leather, and it's actually kangaroo leather that she uses.
Oh,
strip,
really?
And it's hand embossed with, and then she hand paints gold leaf over top. So it's awesome. And she likes to tell the story that she would try and find Christmas or birthday gifts for me that were industry relevant. She had a hard time, and so she just decided to make something herself. So that's where it started.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we kind of began this podcast talking about art. We're ending it talking about art. I know just from speaking with you that you're somewhat of an art aficionado yourself. So I'm really glad that y'all are supporting the Art 420 event. They do tons of great things other than just art. They had the Project Battle for Freedom they did with Jose, helping veterans with PTSD with therapeutic art sessions. They usually have them at the events. I think they're going to have the Kids Zone set up this weekend. So I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be awesome. And, some other great things that are happening is there's a dice mixer, which is sponsored by Minorities for Medical Marijuana. That's going to be happening also. So a lot of great. And then I think I just saw something else come through my feed earlier today. Some other, I think, mixer after party that's cannabis inspired. So I think it's going to be wonderful. Like I said, just the intersection of, Art Basel, as I was saying, is just such an internationally prominent event, and to have the cannabis movement in Florida have that intersection point with such a large audience, it's just going to be amazing. So definitely encourage anyone and everyone in the Miami area, or make a weekend out of it and make it a destination. It's going to be great. So
absolutely, and you're talking about the dice mixer. I can't wait to see Roz. She's awesome.
Oh, she is awesome. She's talk about someone who just puts a smile on your face every time you see her, because of the energy that she exudes and her positivity. And she's such a hustler. She's such a worker, and just passionate, and day in and day out. And that's what a lot of folks maybe don't see behind the scenes, is just these folks who are really fighting the fight just every single day, and just grinding it out on behalf of patients. And it's been humbling to watch and to play a small role in that. So, and Roz is definitely one of those warriors for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's end it on, what does diversity mean for TrueLeave as a company?
Wow. So TrueLeave had the pleasure of partnering with Minorities for Medical Marijuana to write our diversity plan, which is one of the new requirements, which we fully supported in the law last session. And, in doing the analysis, it was a funny, kind of an interesting conversation with Roz, because she came back and she said, wow, Kim, just so you know, you all are 40% minority employers. And so I would just say that for TrueLeave, diversity is a way of life. It's something that's ingrained in our company culture. We are located in, as I mentioned, in Quincy, Florida, in Gadsden County, which is one of the few majority and minority communities in Florida. And we take the responsibility of lifting up the populations within this community very seriously. And not only do we do that here, but we do it in our hires across the state, because we believe that cannabis is a great equalizer, and we certainly want that to be reflected in the faces of our company.
Yeah, it really does show. Just walk, like you're saying, it's not just up in Quincy, but all of your dispensaries, I always see a very diverse mix of employees there.
Thank you. That's very intentional and very purposeful. And we want patients to have and be able to have interactions with folks that they can relate to. It's very important to us.
Yeah, it spans across the whole spectrum. I've seen every type of person as an employee, but more importantly, the patients. This is a very, 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 very diverse population of people that are seeking treatment right now.
Absolutely, and it's so cool. It's so cool in our lobbies too, just to see those different walks of life, interact and have common ground and find commonality. It's really it's very inspiring to just sit back and watch those conversations develop and evolve, and then realize that they have a starting point to a conversation to talk with someone that they may not have otherwise interacted with.
Absolutely, and that's happened to me a couple times. Just sitting down in the lobby, and I'm interacting with somebody that I definitely would have been unlikely to run into in the circles that I frequent. And I love it. It's just what it's all about. Diversity is the spice of life, in my opinion. I would like to thank you, Kim, for coming on and speaking with me and the listeners, and bringing us up to speed on what's going on in TrueLeave, and the things that you support and why you guys support them, and also the issues that are going to be worked on going forward in session, because just because SB 8A got passed doesn't mean that things ended. And I appreciate you coming on, and thank you for what you're doing, and just, keep charging ahead, Florida first.
Thanks, Robert. We appreciate you as well. And thank you to all of your listeners for being part of this movement.
Thanks. Have a great day. You've been listening to The Marijuana Solution.
Well aware of the marijuana solution.